What is going on, guys? Let's go ahead and jump straight into it. Twilight Masquerade. What do I think about this new set that's going to be dropping? Am I buying into it? So when you look at temporal forces in comparison to Twilight Masquerade, it blows it out of the water, okay? And I didn't even like temporal forces that much. Am I an advocate for investing in temporal forces because I see that the value is there? I see that certain cards are very hyped up right now, and that may fall, but it won't ever change the fact that at one point those cards were super hyped up and there was a lot of attention, focus, and demand for those singles in the temporal forces set. Now, Twilight Masquerade, probably not going to have nearly that kind of juice, okay? The common, uncommon card artwork, it's incredible. I love it. I love seeing Pokemon step it up with all these sets, constantly coming out with new artwork, new illustrations. And then the illustration list, I'm a huge fan of Torkoal, okay? Huge fan of Torkoal. The pincer looks amazing. You guys are going to say, oh, Ryan with his Gen 1 through Gen 3 Pokemon. That's just how it is for me, okay? I'm going to appreciate stuff differently from the rest of you. And for me, it's Gen 1 through Gen 3. Maybe even Gen 1 to Gen 4 Pokemon. And we'll stretch that out a little bit since Pialka and Dialga are starting to grow on me. And that whole generation is really starting to grow on me. Astral Radiance probably has had that effect more than anything. But, okay. Twilight Masquerade, looking at the SIRs, I was not impressed. I know that it's Twilight Masquerade, okay? I know that it's a play, we have these big mask Pokemon. I get it. It's an interesting theme. They're trying something different. We can't expect Pokemon to not try different things, but as you guys know, was never a big fan of Terra Crowns, was never a big fan of VMAX Clouds, and now with these big masks, it's just, I'm not sure where they're going with this set, but ultimately, maybe there's going to be demand for the trainer artworks, I don't know. Maybe there will be demand for some of these other illustrations and the market will just say, you know what, this one is amazing. One of my favorite ones in there is probably the Lairon. He's in an alleyway and he's chewing on some trash. He's chewing on like a metal garbage can or something. Like, there are cards that I think have potential, but again, what I like is not what everybody else likes. And as far as looking in there for some epic chase card, I just don't see it. The promos don't look like they smack either. I'm not really that impressed with Twilight Masquerade. I'm really interested to see what you guys think. Maybe somebody can leave a comment and stress like what is so great about Twilight Masquerade. A lot of people have been saying, well, just wait for wait for Scarlet and Violet era, to end. Wait till they add these last sets. It's not over yet. There's still more to come. Again, I think that English 151, Japanese 151, Paldea Evolved, and now Temporal Forces, which I was not really on board with being one of the best sets in this era. I just think that we don't have all that much to work with in terms of like really, really peak sets. Of course, Scarlet and Violet has been great with pull rates. We've gotten this plethora of new artworks and designs and styles, and I think that that's great. I think Pokemon is always improving in that respect, and it's come a long way from Sword and Shield, right? Like, it actually makes way more sense from a value and quality perspective to invest in Scarlet and Violet sealed boxes that you really believe in, 151, Paldea, Temporal Forces, or maybe Paradox Rift too. Because honestly, the Roaring Moon from Paradox Rift, I know I'm not the only one who thinks this. There was somebody who left a comment the other day. What do you think would it be a good idea to buy, several Roaring Moons? And even though it's not Salamence, which is one of my favorite dragon types, Salamence is just such a sick looking Pokemon. Even though it's not him, it technically is him. It still has that same style. It is, the prehistoric, version, the paradoxal version of Salamence. And the Roaring Moon actually looks incredible. It does. It really does look incredible. I should really throw Paradox Rift in the ring just for that Roaring Moon card. And, you know, the Iron Valiant, there are other cards in that set that also had that futuristic appeal. And I think they did it right with Paradox Rift. The more I look at these other sets, I think they did it right with Paradox Rift. We might want to throw Paradox Rift in the ring there as one of the sets that's going to do really well. It does have a lot of great artworks, and then that Roaring Moon just looks phenomenal, in my opinion. But Twilight Masquerade, between the trainer arts and the illustrations and the SIRs, I just don't see it. I just don't see it, you know, with Temporal Forces. You know, people are crazy about Ghastly, okay? They're crazy about, you know, these hype chase cards that are artificially inflated and manipulated. And while I don't really get it, and I still think that it's a cool card, I would have never imagined the kind of hype and the kind of demand that there would have been for that card. All this to say that, who knows, maybe Twilight Masquerade is going to have one card that just dominates, like a simple illustration card that just dominates. Now, there is the Morty's Conviction, which is an SIR that has a large portion of the card is Gengar. And so the Ghastly and the Gengar in that set, they go together really, really well. It is odd to me. I would expect that if it was a Gengar SIR or a Gengar illustration rare, that it would do really, really well. But still, we are now seeing that with trainer SIRs, with the Morty's Conviction, with him sitting at his table with his coffee, tea, whatever he's got, and then Gengar's chilling right there looking up at your perspective, I would have never honestly believed that that would have been an epic chase card. I wouldn't have seen it coming. Just because that Pokemon is featured in that card, I wouldn't have seen it coming. Maybe there's more to that. Maybe people have an affinity for Morty and they like Gengar, and those two together just made a dynamic duo. I don't know, and I'm not going to attempt to know and understand it, but clearly now we're seeing that if even a Pokemon that's popular is featured in an SIR, whether it's a trainer SIR or fully a Pokemon SIR, that card is probably going to do well. We may see something like that in Twilight Masquerade. I don't know if the visual set list that's on Basil, JustinBasil.com, the homie has been putting out all the visual set lists. It's been fantastic. I've always been able to check up on what's coming next. And typically, I don't really want to know what's coming up next. I will probably forget within a couple of days all that's in Twilight Masquerade. But I just did a quick look over to let you guys know my thoughts. Is this a set that I would be clamoring to grab? Is this a set that I would see as a great sealed investment play down the road? Is this a set that I would even want to open? No, it's not. And nothing against anybody that wants to open the set, guys. Feel free to let me know why you like this set. What are the best cards and why you like those cards so much. But for me personally, I just don't see it. Temporal Forces was a pass, but I ended up buying Temporal Forces and got one case of it. Now seeing Twilight Masquerade and being let down by Twilight Masquerade and not seeing a whole lot of competition within the rest of the era, I think that Temporal Forces is really one of those slam dunk sets as far as the demand for that set. Could I be jumping the gun by thinking that? Possibly, because again, my gut is telling me that Temporal Forces is really not as great as people have hyped it up to be. I still am going to put my money where my mouth is with 151. I will want to try and attempt to buy more 151 Japanese. I already put it in the garage, but I got my Japanese 151 booster box, and it looks very similar to this other verse box. It's kind of skinny. It's kind of more flattened down than the traditional booster box size that we have over here. You know, the Japanese boxes are about half the size of the English boxes. Nothing wrong with that. Honestly, at the end of the day, they're going to store a lot better. You're going to be able to stack way more of those in the long run. I'm really starting to see the potential in 151 Japanese. And if you can find that for $80, $90 still, whether it's TikTok coupons or a distributor or a friend who bought too many who just wants to sell you a couple of their extras, I would definitely buy into that. Japanese is kind of tanking right now, but I don't think that that's going to be across the board. I think that 151 is one of the few Japanese Scarlet Violet sets that's going to hold up very, very well. And I feel the same way about English 151. It's kind of like that slam dunk set that even though people are like, oh, the singles are crashing and, you know, there's There's 151 product everywhere. I don't care how abundant it is or how available singles are or whether the prices of singles are dropping. I personally believe in 151, and I think that 151 is going to outperform everything else in Scarlet and Violet. Aside from maybe Paldea Evolved and Temporal, because they are main sets and they do have cards that are appreciating very, very well. The same thing with the Magikarp. I know it's Magikarp, but the same thing, I like saying it Magikarp. The same thing we're seeing with Magikarp is the same thing that we might end up seeing with the Ghastly or maybe the Morty's Conviction. We might see some of that price action. We might see these cards skyrocket down the road. I don't get it. I still don't get what's going on with the Magikarp, but I'm not going to try to understand it. It is what it is. The market's priced that card at what the market values that card at. But the market has spoken, and from that, we can infer what's going to happen moving forward. We can infer that Paldea Evolved is going to be great. We can infer that Temporal Forces is going to be great. And again, 151 printed to demand, printed very, very heavily. We have to keep that in mind. Does that mean that it's going to fall flat on its face? Absolutely not. I think that's going to do really well in the long term. They clearly printed a crap ton of Brilliant Stars and Silver Tempest, and I still think those sets are going to do really well in the long term. Just because they've got those classics embedded with the sets. They're going to do really well just off those classics, in my opinion. You cannot beat the classics. But again, that's just my take on it. Twilight Masquerade doesn't show me a lot of the classics. It doesn't give me any one chase card that I'm like, I have to have this set just because of that one chase card. It doesn't even give me a card that I want to just buy as a single. Now, maybe the set list that we see visually is not fully up to date. There's a good chance that that is the case. There's a good chance that we have to see a lot more of this set before we can really make any judgment calls. I'm going to keep an open mind about that. But I'm definitely interested in what you guys think of the set currently. What's your favorite illustration? What's your favorite SIR? Are you interested in any of the trainer cards? What about the full arts? Do you see any potential in the full arts? That's another thing. One of my absolute favorite full arts in Temporal Forces is the Gengar full art. We could see that Gengar full art really appreciating well down the road. And again, I don't really think that like you should buy 50 Gengar full arts. I don't think you should ever create a position quite like that. But do I see a really good potential in Temporal because of the Ghastly, the Morty's Conviction, and then that Gengar full art? It is really a nice trifecta of those three cards. But, you know, it's nothing like, you know, Sword and Shield, where we have like 4 or 5, albeit very, very difficult to pull cards, but 4 or 5 amazing alt arts within most of the sets. You know, we don't really get that vibe with some of these Scarlet Violet sets, but yeah. That's all I got for today. Twilight Masquerade seems like a straight pass for me. Will I maybe buy a case of it? Maybe. If it gets cheap enough, maybe. But Twilight Masquerade, I don't even consider it in the same realm of like Battle Styles or Sword and Shield base or, you know what? No, that's not fair. That's not fair because at least Twilight Masquerade has an amazing set of assortment of the illustration rares that I like a lot. So I would automatically probably place it above Sword and Shield base and Rebel Clash. But I would say something like Battle Styles still has way more potential even from when it released than something like Twilight Masquerade. I don't know. Maybe I'm going too far there. Maybe the Empoleon and the Tyranitar and the Urshifu arts are not enough. But definitely growing on me. I'm becoming a way bigger fan of Empoleon than I used to be, which is making me super, super bullish about Battle Styles. The more I like Empoleon, the more I'm like, that might be the best alt art in Battle Styles. Even though I know we all go after the Tyranitar, the Empoleon might be the better of those two. Well, of the 6 with the other Urshifu alt arts. Anyways, I'm going to let you guys go. Let me know what you think about Twilight Masquerade. Is this just a filler set? Are we just getting another filler set just to get us through the rest of the era? Is there going to be something big coming after it, and it's just really a buffer until they release that next set? We're going to find out. I haven't looked or heard about the set coming after, so I might have to look into that. Anyways, peace out. I'll let you guys go. Let me know what you think.